From critically endangered species being rediscovered and the largest wind farm in Africa, to major breakthroughs in medicine that will save thousands of lives. Hi, I'm Freddy. This is good news, and today I have 10 stories that will make your day. And we start this video in the remote mountains of Vietnam, where a German research team made an incredible discovery that could change the future of one of the world's most endangered monkeys. Initially, the scientists were just documenting some plants in the forest of this province, and then they decided to take a little break. That's when they looked up and spotted something they never expected. Gray-shanked duklangurs. Sorry, I probably mispronounced this. And honestly, these monkeys look insane. Currently, there are fewer than 2,400 of them remaining in the world, which makes them critically endangered. And what started as an accidental encounter became something much bigger. The team decided to go back and do proper surveys to find out if this was more than just a lucky sighting. And their follow-up work in the forest revealed even better news. A complete family group with adults and young monkeys, proving that this was a thriving breeding population. They also spoke to the local villagers, and they mentioned that they occasionally spotted these monkeys near their homes or while collecting things in the forest. This discovery shows that these endangered animals are surviving in unexplored corners of Vietnam's forests. And if researchers can stumble over one of the populations by accident, it gives a lot of hope that other groups might be out there as well. While some animals are being found, others are getting a new home. 70 southern white rhinos have successfully made the 3,400-kilometer journey from South Africa to their new home in one of Rwanda's national parks. And this isn't just any rescue mission. These rhinos were being raised in captivity as part of a large breeding program. But after the project ran into financial problems, the animals were supposed to be sold at an auction. But no buyers showed any interest. So, African Parks took action and bought the entire place, including its 2,000 rhinos. Now, they are giving these animals a second chance in the wild, after living their whole life in a breeding facility. Their goal is actually to relocate all 2,000 of them, which is about 11% of the world's total white rhino population. So they are literally moving 11% of the whole population. As part of this mission, the 70 animals were carefully transported by truck to Durban, flown to Rwanda's capital, and then driven to Akagera. As you can see on this map, most white rhinos are concentrated in South Africa. But Rwanda already proved it can also be a safe place. 30 rhinos moved there in 2021 have not just survived, but their population has even grown. That's why conservationists are hopeful that Rwanda could become a starting point for bringing white rhinos back across East and Central Africa. And conservation success isn't just happening on land. Right now, 2/3 of our planet's ocean have no real protection. This map shows you just how little is actually protected. These international waters stretch endlessly beyond any country's control. And until now, there's been no proper legal framework to stop overfishing or even prevent deep-sea mining in these areas. But something big just happened. 19 countries, including Belgium, Denmark, Greece, Vietnam and Indonesia, just joined the High Seas Treaty, bringing the total number of members to 50. And once it reaches 60 countries, the treaty becomes legally binding across the globe. 60 is basically the magic number under international law. So that means only 10 more countries are needed to make this agreement finally official. According to the UN Secretary General, this is moving at a record pace. Similar ocean treaties took 12 years to get enough support, but this one is doing it in just over 2 years. When 10 more countries sign on, there's a 120-day countdown once the treaty takes effect. And once in effect, we can finally start setting up protected areas in international waters. So we could be looking at a real turning point for ocean protection. And speaking of this topic, French Polynesia just created the world's largest marine protected area, covering nearly 5 million square kilometers. I mean, just look at this map. This thing is absolutely massive. It's around 1.5 times the size of India, and it could swallow the entire European Union. And here's what makes it really special. Across the entire area of this new sanctuary, it restricts destructive deep-sea mining and bottom trawling. Over 1 million square kilometers of it will be fully protected, which is roughly 4 times the size of the UK. Here, the only activities permitted will be fishing near the coast, ecotourism, and doing scientific research. But here's the remarkable part. All of this comes from a small island nation representing less than 0.006% of the global GDP. Yet, they are taking responsibility for protecting massive ocean areas. And they are not stopping there. French Polynesia plans to add another 500,000 square kilometers of protection by 2026. And speaking of environmental good news, Egypt just launched something equally impressive on land. Giant wind turbines now stretch across Egypt's desert, harnessing the wind to power 500,000 homes. This massive wind farm is the largest one in Africa, and it will cut over 1.4 million tons of carbon emissions every year. That's like taking 300,000 cars off the road. And they are actually just getting started. Egypt is already planning an even bigger wind farm for 2027 that will power over 1 million households. And honestly, it's about time. Despite having around 20% of the world's population, Africa only has around 2% of global clean energy investments. But this massive project, along with others planned for the future, is definitely a step in the right direction. Over in Australia, researchers just made important progress in tackling HIV. For 40 million people living with HIV worldwide, daily medication keeps the virus under control. But here's the problem. Some virus particles are hiding and sleeping deep inside immune cells, where treatments can't reach them. But Australian researcher Sharon Lewin and her team at the University of Melbourne just figured out how to wake them up. They developed a kind of delivery system that can reach these cells and activate the virus hiding inside. The treatment roughly works like this. A protein is delivered to the cell that forces the hidden virus to reveal itself. Think of it like a master key. This protein, called TET, unlocks the virus from its hiding place and forces it to start making copies of itself, which in the end makes it visible to the immune system. And the results were incredible when they tested this on cells from 8 HIV patients. They measured 5 different stages of viral activity over 72 hours, from the moment the virus starts waking up to when it begins producing new copies of itself. And the hidden virus became 112 times more active than before. You can see this dramatic jump in the graph. Those low dots on the left show barely any virus activity before the treatment. The scatter of high dots on the right shows the massive spike after the new treatment. You are probably wondering why a 112 times increase of virus activity is any good. Well, it's actually quite simple. Once the virus becomes more active, the immune system can finally see it and also eliminate it. And this is just the beginning. The same approach could help to deliver other treatments directly to cells that used to be impossible to reach. Meanwhile, scientists at Stanford just developed a new life-saving treatment. When someone has a stroke, every single minute counts. That's because a blood clot is blocking oxygen from reaching the brain, and brain cells start dying within minutes. But here's the shocking reality. Current techniques to remove the clot only work about 50% of the time on the first try. But Stanford researchers just changed that with something called the millispinner. This tiny device can remove the toughest blood clots 90% of the time on the first attempt. And here's the genius idea of how it works. Instead of breaking the clots apart, it shrinks them. Think of it like rolling cotton fibers between your palms. The device compresses and spins the clot until it becomes a tiny and dense ball, sometimes just 5% of its original size. According to the researcher Rhinos, this breakthrough could transform many treatments, including the ones for strokes and heart attacks. Clinical trials are starting soon, and this technology could save thousands of lives every year. Returning to Australia, researchers have just solved another medical puzzle that affects millions of people worldwide. One that currently forces people to make themselves sick just to get diagnosed. That's the reality for people suspected of having celiac disease. Right now, the only way to confirm it is with a biopsy of the small intestine. And for the test to work, the patient has to be eating gluten regularly. For many who have already cut gluten from their diet to relieve painful symptoms, this means weeks of gut pain, bloating and fatigue just to get some answers. But Melbourne researchers at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute just changed everything. Their new study suggests that a simple blood test could diagnose celiac disease, even when patients are not eating any gluten. The test works by exposing blood samples to gluten in the lab and measuring the immune system's response. It showed 90% sensitivity and 97% accuracy, which means it can detect the condition very reliably. Around 1 in 100 people worldwide, or roughly 2,300 of our subscribers, have this condition, but only 30% are actually diagnosed. And this simple blood test could change that, helping up to 56 million people finally getting the answers they need. And this next person is also making a huge change for a lot of people, and she's only 12 years old. This is Freddy, who has planted over 150,000 trees across India. It all started when she was just 7 years old, after a devastating cyclone hit her community. But Freddy didn't just plant regular trees. She created something called fruit forests. These aren't just trees for the environment. They are edible ecosystems that provide food and shelter for the entire community. Her work has led her to speak at major UN climate summits, and she's won national awards for environmental leadership. She's now inspiring thousands of volunteers across India through her foundation, proving that even very young people can make a big difference. And for our last story, here's some good news for the whole world. According to a major WHO report that was released this year, global suicide rates have dropped by an incredible 35% between 2000 and 2021. And that's not just a statistic. It represents countless lives saved through coordinated global action. The progress varies by region, but the results are remarkable. Europe saw a 48% decrease, the Western Pacific region dropped by 50%, and Southeast Asia reduced rates by 26%. You can see this incredible progress in the chart. Most lines are trending downwards, except for the Americas, to be fully transparent here. This shows that most regions of the world have made dramatic improvements over the past 2 decades. Alright, that's it for today's video. I really hope it made your day a little bit better, and if you have any feedback for us, please feel free to write a comment. We love reading them and try to make every video a little bit better. Anyways, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.